Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. So, Dr. Are Thoresen, thank you so much for being there with us. So welcome everyone on Spirale.tv. I am Chloe.
Hello. Hi everyone. I'm Norbert. We are very happy to welcome you to our show. It's a great pleasure to discuss with your subjects related to medicine and spirituality.
And I say hello, yes.
Yes.
My name is Are Thoresen, and I am supposed to answer your questions and have a talk with you tonight.
Okay, so thank you. It's an honor for us to welcome you, veterinary Dr. Are Thoresen. Yes, so you come to tell us about your latest book, released at the end of 2021, Travels on the Northern Paths of Initiation, Vidar and Balder, the three elemental realms and the inner and outer etheric worlds, at Temple Lodge edition, right?
Yes.
So, to introduce you today's program, I will state the titles of the three chapters that make up your book, because I think this gives us a very clear introduction. So first, the first one is about your meeting with Vidar and Balder beyond the elemental realms. The second, seeing the elemental realms. And your third chapter, talking about how the adversarial forces hinder spiritual observation, corrupting our spiritual senses.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe I should first describe it all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, thank you.
As you prefer.
Why I wrote the book. From I was 5 years old, I became or trained clairvoyance in nature, as at that time I had no siblings and no friends and no television. So I walked very much in the nature, and I started to train to see the elemental beings very early. And for years I thought that the nature beings was sort of it all. I mean, the elemental beings was what I saw in the nature, like gnomes and troll and hulder, you know, all these mythological beings, which I met several times. Later, and which is also described by several authors in several books. You know, there are quite many books about nature beings and elemental beings and so on. And what I did not know was actually that at that time, that the elemental world, which is sort of a world between the physical world, the material world, and the higher spiritual world, sort of the foundation of the creation, that is called the elemental world. And this is in three realms, in three sort of depths. And the third was up to 1950 was open to everybody when you could go into it. But at around 1950, a deeper realm opened by the making of the atom energy and the atom bomb and so on. And that was the second realm. And the beings in the second realm is very different from the third realm. And then around this time, actually 2018, 2019, the first realm opened, which are again very different. And what you I think you asked, Norbert, is in the third realm. It is a classical 4 elements: fire, earth, water, and air.
Yeah.
But in the second realm, it is a lot more elements, because the second realm has to do with the foundation of materiality, actually the atoms. Many years ago, I read a story from an African tribe, which told about these elemental beings in the second realm. They say when you take a glass of water, you actually drink millions of elemental beings. And I thought at that time, that was strange. That was strange. How can you drink millions of elemental beings? Because I saw them as my height or smaller, or actually the trolls are quite big. So this made an impression on me. And then when you come to the second elemental realm, that is the foundation, the atoms. And as these atoms are ordered in groups in the periodical system, you have this. They are 7, 8, 9, 10 sort of groups. It depends how you arrange it. And each represent an element. So you might say it is 7, 8, 9, 10 elements. It's not so easy to count when you're there.
Mm.
And these elemental beings are much, much smaller. They are not like, take that off. I put on flight mode there. Then nobody make us right. They are much, much smaller. And then you come to the first realm, which is extremely interesting, because that has to do with the vacuum, the total vacuum. And as you know, that if you make a total vacuum, there are certain particles coming to life. It's called elemental particles. And very accurate, it is elemental particles, because they are elemental beings that come out of vacuum. And there I could count around 18, 19, 20 sort of elements. And when you look at later, I looked up how many elemental particles there are, and there are about like that number, 18, 19, 20 types of elemental particles. So you see, totally there are much more elements than the classical 4 that the Greeks put up originally. So that was a little answer to, I think, what you asked.
Yeah, thank you. So we can continue to the second question. So can you enlighten us on the opening of the 3 realms, and just maybe a little bit about the corresponding dates? The opening of the 3 realms?
Yes.
Please.
Dates.
And to really understand it is maybe not that easy, but Rudolf Steiner said that in 1879, the adversarial forces were thrown down on the earth. They were thrown down on the earth, at the earth. And what is earth? Earth is actually the elemental realms, the elemental world. So they were thrown down in the third elemental realm. And there they confronted human beings. And that happened in 1879, according to Rudolf Steiner, which could very well be correct. But as the elemental, and Rudolf Steiner didn't talk so much about the three realms of the elemental world, but some places he told about it, but not in detail, because the second and the first was closed at that time, and it was very dangerous to go there. And there was a Swedish artist, Hilma af Klint, who actually went into the second realm, and she painted pictures from there. You can look at Google her. It's quite interesting pictures, and they are very symmetrical and very, it's almost like atomistic molecules. They are like round and lines and different anatomical structure, not anatomical, geometrical structures. And she showed these pictures to Steiner, and he was very upset, almost angry, and said, "Don't show them to anybody. This is not legal, sort of, to paint these pictures. It's dangerous. You shouldn't show it to anybody." Until 1950. He said that in 1718. And without any explanation. And that was because in 1949, the second realm opened. 70 years after the third realm. And so then you could observe these more luciferic beings in the third, more Ahrimanic beings in the second. And then something happened around 2019. That is also 70 years after 49. Then when I observe sick people, I observe the two forces in the body, the luciferic forces or yang forces, and the Ahrimanic forces or yin forces down here, and how they relate to each other, and then you can sort of make a diagnosis. But around 2019, there came a third force to be seen, which situated on the right side of the heart. And that is the Azuri Force. So today it is not only the luciferic and Ahrimanic, you also have the Azuri forces that you have to consider when you do a diagnosis and treatment of sick people, or a sort of a diagnosis of the spiritual situation in the human being. And I never seen that before. And the interesting thing, the first person I saw it in was a very psychic woman. She was very clairvoyant, and she had her living from her clairvoyance. And she had a good income from it too. And then I was quite shocked because I saw the Azuric being. And then I later asked her, "Do you know that your clairvoyance is actually given from this Azuric being?" And she said, "Yes, I am aware of it. Can you help me to deal with it?" But the problem is when people have their quite good income and name from a certain ability that is given from the adversarial forces, then they don't easily give it away or deal with it. So so this opening of the whole elemental realms will lead to quite much clairvoyance, but of an adversarial nature. which doesn't necessarily mean that it is wrong, but it is tainted. It leads you away from the good forces, although it might be right. I mean, a black magician can do sort of effective things and he can do what he wants, but it's not right still. So, so that is a problem today with clairvoyance. It is maybe false and it may be of adversarial nature. And then we come to later, because when you go past these three elemental realms, you come to the outer etheric world, where there is a very mighty guardian on the threshold, and his name is Vidar. I asked him, what is you? Who are you? And he said, Vidar. And this is the new, as they knew from the Nordic mysteries so old, that he was to come after Ragnarok and then give human beings the new clairvoyance and the new spirituality. And he also told me very clearly, because you said my last book was Traveling the Northern Path of Initiation. That is actually my, after that I've written 2 more books.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Great news for us.
but the second is only published in Finnish.
Okay.
Because they were so fast to publish it. So it will be published in English in a little while, not that long, I hope, because it is totally finished. And the third, I am halfway in. So, but there comes actually this teaching of Vidar, which is a new spiritual leader of at least the Nordic area. You are in France, so maybe you too, but I don't know. And Steiner said that Vidar is going to be the face of Christ penetrating into Europe from the north. So it has a certain mission actually from the north. And he was very clear about clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is it's much more dangerous today than it was, because of the influence or the influx incoming of the Azuri forces. So today he said that clairaudience is much safer. And when you look at old pictures of Vidar, he has huge ears, indicating that we have to listen spiritually to the spiritual world and not looking. We can see, of course, but then we must be careful because we can be led astray. So this third book that I'm writing now is, the title is Vidar 2, From Clairvoyance to Clairaudience.
Okay.
Okay.
And that takes away sort of, that is a little difficult for the quite many people in Europe, in France, Germany, all over, have their sort of value in being clairvoyant. And that has to do with the eyes and the light and not clairaudient. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. It's yeah, impressive. Could you please talk a little bit about the different thresholds, the way
Yeah, well,
occur?
You know, the first threshold between the material world and the third elemental realm, I crossed when I was 5. So I don't remember that very well, so I cannot say that much. That is a problem when I teach often. You see, I totally forget the difficulties I had because it's so long ago. So sometimes I ask other students, tell them what is the problem, because I don't remember anymore. So this first threshold, I'm not sure, but I crossed it by a method called fading into nature beings, fading into the trees, fading into human beings, fading into animals. It's almost like two people who are very much in love. They sit and look in each other's eyes, and then they suddenly are in each other. I remember I had one such experience with my first wife. At a certain moment, I didn't know, am I me or am I her? I was so much into her soul. I remember that experience very well. So that is the first threshold. And when you go from the first threshold from the material world to the third elemental realm, then you go from the third to the second, which is a very small threshold. Then you go from the second to the first, which also is a small threshold. But the next big threshold is from the first to the outer etheric. That is a quite big threshold, which you have to push to get over. You have sort of to have a certain will, a certain braveness, a certain push to get over. And then you meet this huge being, actually two beings, because there are one at one side, and Vidar is on the left side when you come over the threshold, the left for you, and then and you have a smaller entity on his left, which is your right, which he presented as Balder. Baldur, we say in Norway. And this is a bringer of the new, is called the new clairvoyance, which is not clairvoyance, but clairaudience. But quite often people use the word clairvoyance for all the supersensible observations. And this is what I know of thresholds. And there you have to pass in the first threshold, you pass, and you in a way meet a certain realm of the demonic world, which is in the third elemental realm. So I used some years to cross that, and I observed these demonic beings, and very important then is actually not to be afraid, which I never was. And then the second, to the outer etheric world, where you meet Vidar, then you have to sit there and receive his teaching for, it took me, I think, a few months. And that is a teaching that go on what I call 24/7. It goes all the time. So a few months I had to sit there, and then I was allowed in. Yeah, short on the thresholds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have full of questions, so we're just trying to check it out too.
And you see, when you make a question, I have to sort of answer, build it up. I cannot only say yes. So
For sure.
Sometimes I do, but now I try to be more forthcoming. Sometimes I'm too introvert to do that.
Well, I have a question. do you currently need the soapstone of the fire element, for example, to connect with the
no,
Vidar and Balder?
no.
Yeah. So, okay.
Very short question. No. you see, if you have been somewhere, it's very easy to go there.
Yeah.
The first time, let's say, I hear about Paris and I want to go to Paris, and then I really have to study the maps, and then I have to change the train there, and
Yeah, of course.
yeah, that takes time. And
Second times it's
but when you have been there and you have all the pictures, you know how it is. You can get there in 1 second, actually. Then you are
just
there.
think about it.
Yeah,
Right?
think about the Eiffel Tower and so on. I was there when I was 18. So that is more like that actually in the spiritual world. You can go there wherever you have been very fast in 1 second. The first time is always the difficult. That is the work actually.
Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit the difference between the etheric words?
The inner and outer, you mean, or the
Yeah.
and etheric?
No, the inner and outer.
Yeah.
The difference in between.
Yes, and now we come to something very interesting. You see, in the outer etheric world, there you can find the Christ. Not in the inner. And that is a huge misunderstanding today. The inner etheric world is like crystal clear water. It's almost like a mountain stream, or what the Greek called Styx, the river that when you are dead, you travel on with Charon, the ferryman, the rowman. When you come to the outer etheric, the whole area is filled of pastel colored clouds. And then you come to something very interesting that is described in the Acts of the Apostles in the Bible, when they were looking at Christ when he ascended. And then the angel told them that he is now going up into the clouds, and it is from the clouds he will reappear. They said that very clearly. And many sort of understand the clouds as the spiritual world. But that is actually quite literally, because he is in the outer etheric world and not the inner. The inner etheric world is the etheric forces that we use to live ourselves, or the plants need to grow and live, and the animals and the trees and the flowers and everything. The etheric force in the water, that is the inner. But the outer is spiritual. There is no adversarials. They have been thrown down on earth in 1879, 1949, and 2019. There are none left. And it is very different. As I said, it is like clouds, pastel colored clouds. And the inner is like crystal flowing water. Yeah, that is a difference. Of course, there are many other differences, but that is the sort of what falls in your eyes.
And is there a threshold between the inner and outer?
No, the inner is inner. Then there is a threshold to the third elemental realm. Then you go to the second, then you go to the first, then you come to the outer. You have to go through the elemental world to get to the outer.
This order.
Yeah. So there are 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 actually thresholds between the inner and the outer etheric world.
Yes, thank you very much. Maybe we could talk about this one and this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain us more the importance also in this path, in the separation of thinking, feeling, and willing?
Yeah.
Please.
My main method, the method I always have used, is to fade into something. And that is also, if you have read my book, described in Parsifal. It's described in Kalevala. Steiner have described it in several places. The best is in Helsinki in 1912. And the Sami people, the shamanic people can describe it. They have to fade into something. So now comes, you don't fade into something with your totality. You fade into something either with your thinking. Let's say you have you in the mathematic classes at school, you have to understand the Pythagoras, the proof of the triangle. Yeah, you really fade into it. You sit and think about this problem so deeply. That is with your thinking. And then you have then you fade only with the thinking. And then you can fade into something with your feeling. You can see an animal, you can love a cat or a woman, a man. I mean, you can fade into only with your feeling. Then you don't think. Let's say you kiss a girl, you don't think at all. Then you stop, that it goes totally wrong. You cannot think. You fade into with the feeling. You're only in the feeling. And then you can fade with your willing into wanting something, or running, for example, when you yeah, I was in the rowing, national rowing club, you know, and we were running on these trainings from 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock all the time. You're running 4 hours. Then you in the end you didn't think much. You came into sort of only will. You didn't feel much either, because it was a little painful, but you were only in the will. So you can try to separate these strings, and so the separation is actually a matter of necessity when you fade. And that's why I also describe you can fade with your thinking, you can fade with your feeling, you can fade with your willing. So you don't sort of separate them as such as they are. You don't separate them in situ, sort of also in the place, but you separate them by fading with one of them.
Okay.
Or maybe you can fade with two. I don't do that actually. I usually fade with one. And I can fade with the thinking. I don't usually use at all. I fade with the feeling, or I fade with the willing. I tried this fading with the willing sometimes, and the most interesting was when I was playing tennis with a friend. We were playing, hitting the ball back and forth. We were not that good, but then I faded into the willing when I hit the ball. Normal hit. And then he totally stopped and said, "What did you do? That ball was little. If you do that once more, I will never play with you," he said. And I also tried to do that by playing flute. I had a flute teacher. So I faded into willing while playing a tune. And she suddenly stopped and said, "What did you do now? That tune was perfect." That is like James Galloway could do it, fading into willing. You know James Galloway with the flute? Yeah, was a great flutist. So I think that those who are very good at their art, or flute, or even martial art or something, they fade totally into the willing. And then they get a strength that is beyond normal.
Yeah.
You understand me? You have done something like that?
Yeah, actually, to me, I heard some, of course, I think. Like you were talking about like a big composer like Mozart or Beethoven in your book. Yes, so I think it was a big epoch and big situation to have those composer needs for those century. And do you think, I have a question just on what just you've said about, could we say that when you goes now in the etheric out world, you faded it by your feelings, right?
No, well, both yes and no.
Yes, of course.
First, I fade into something, and that is not so important. And then I am in the spiritual.
Yes, okay.
And then I can observe or do or what things. So it's a sort of two-step.
Mm-hmm.
The fading is the passing of the threshold. And when you're there, then I decide what to do. And then you can do quite silly physical things, because as I wrote in that blue book you have there, the experience from the threshold.
Yes.
I was playing chess 100 times with my father, and I didn't like to start. So I faded and I looked at his hand, and then I could see the black pawn, and then I chose that. And he said 100 times after each other, I got a black. Yes. And he said at the end, how can you only get this black? It is statistically impossible. 100 times it is. And to me, it was because I faded, and then I could decide to look at the physical. You can look through the physical flesh when you have faded. And when I was 21, I was describing this to a doctor, and she said, you know that is not normal, she said. And then I suddenly realized I was 21 years before I realized that was not normal, common. And I don't know why, because it is so easy to fade. But you see, to fade into something, you have to have time. And I think when I grew up, we had time where we were bored. We didn't have TV or phones. So I sat in the forest, you know, and when you sit there and actually have nothing to do.
It's more contemplation to me, I think, because
Yes.
I know it's to get bored, but it's some way it's more fitting in some contemplation ways.
Yeah. And when you know that you can actually fade into even through a picture, I do that quite many patients now through a computer.
Yeah.
When you see them, you can fade into them. And then you can put make a diagnosis or even a treatment.
Yeah.
So this fading is for me everything. That is my way into the spiritual, which is actually called the Northern path, the Northern way of initiation. That's why I wrote that book. Because the Eastern, they go more internal. They don't fade into the external nature. The yogi go inside. And that is the inside way. And this is often called the outer way to the spiritual.
Do you have any other question on this subject? Because I have some
No,
other. Yeah. I was wondering, please let us maybe say some few more words about archaï, because you have talked about archaï on your book, and
Yes.
this is to me the very first time that I heard about this. So would you please tell us more about them?
Yes. And that has to do with the good beings of the spiritual world. In the lowest realm, you have angels, and then you have archangels, and then you have archai. And they are pictured in the Bible or described in the Bible. In the angels have 2 wings, the archangels have 4 wings, and the archai have 8 wings or something. I mean,
Okay.
this is just a way of describing it.
Okay.
And these angel hierarchies, they have their oppositions. Like the angels have the Luciferic opposition, the archangel, the Ahrimanic opposition, and the archai have the Azuric opposition.
Okay.
And now could come a very interesting observation, which I did in Italy. I was invited to give, you see, 20 years ago, I was the first teacher of veterinary acupuncture in Italy. So in the Italian group of veterinary acupuncturists. So at their 20th year celebration, I was invited to give a lecture. So I was in Napoli, in English, Naples, yeah. So I went through the town up to the university, and midway there was a huge demonstration, and that was arranged by Greta Thunberg. You know her, Greta
Yeah.
Thunberg. Yeah. And I had never seen her before, and some said this and some said that. Oh, she's in the hands of capital and or whatever, you know. But I stopped and looked, and there was an archaic being that was hovering over the demonstration over her. So she was actually supported by a high spiritual being. And a few years later, I was in Sweden, and I met a man who, knew her. And I asked him, does she know that she is led by spiritual forces, beings? And he looked at me and said, yes, she do. So, and that was summer of 2019. So I looked at this archaic being, which is huge, huge. Like 100 meters, something. An angel is sort of normal height, let's say 2 meters. Archangel is double, and the archai is very big. So, and there is a law in the spiritual world that if a spiritual impulse is not received, it always is taken over by the adversarials. And that is why they say you shall not throw pearls in front of swine. If you give somebody a spiritual truth and they don't take it, it sort of hits back on you. So this archaic being, and what she tried to do, was not received by the world. We all know that. And this was summer of 19. And then I was in London in February 20, and I got COVID, quite hard. And I watched the elemental of the COVID, and it was exactly the same as the archaic being. So I think the disease was related to the Azuric beings, which was the counter image of the archaic being.
that was another question of us.
And, and a reaction for us not to listen to her. And many say, oh, she is in the hands of Soros or whatever, you know. Yes, why not? That doesn't matter. She still is under the guidance. Think about Jeanne d'Arc. She was used by the church or by the rich people or whatever, or burned in the end, you know. She still was led by the Archangel of France. She still was a savior.
Yeah.
So even if you are used by all these negative things, you still can be
in your path,
under the guidance of the spiritual world.
Yeah.
And you can even make mistakes, of course. Maybe you take bribes, maybe you seduce a woman, whatever. You still, your mission can still be led by the spiritual world. Yeah, that was. So I really had a great admiration for her, actually. And when I heard that he actually knew it, I was not surprised. And last time I was in Stockholm, I lived in a hotel just across the river from her house, so I could actually see her house. So I thought, shall I visit her? And I did not dare, actually. You cannot knock on the door and say hello.
Would you have some time to speak about something?
Yeah, so I didn't do that. I'm a little shy. Somebody else would have done it, maybe. Do you know that you have an archive over you? Huh?
Maybe she will tell us his name, because each one of them are named like our angel and archangel. So maybe she knows.
Yes, maybe she knows.
Yeah.
So I plan next time I'm in Stockholm, which is not that long till, I will try to gather up some courage and knock on her door.
So thank you for those precision. I would like maybe to ask you about the cycle that you're talking about on your book, many books, I think, but the fifth cycle you mentioned about the Earth, right? Before the fourth one, Atlantéenne plan etheric plan, sorry. And the fifth one, the cycle of Earth, right? So is it mean that you are telling us that this is the end of the fifth and we are going to start the sixth one?
Yes, the sixth cultural age.
Yeah, okay.
Which will be the Slavic culture.
Okay, so
you mentioned the fight is now about the Slavic culture.
Okay.
Ukraine. Is it the communistic or is it the Slavic culture? So these, you see, this is quite, I don't know if that question actually is very good, because, sorry, because that is more like they have these different ages, you know. You have the Greek age, you have the modern age.
Yeah, of course.
So this is sort of putting up or dividing time into different ages.
Yes.
And some say you have the Hyperboreic age, you have the Atlantic age, you have the post-Atlantic or the Aryan age.
The Marian one. Yes, okay.
And so on. So this is more, that is not the most interesting.
Okay.
And it's a little boring maybe to make up it.
Okay, it's okay. So we have prepared a few documents, and or sorry for my draw, but maybe if you allow me to show my draw, you will maybe explain, because first thing that when I read your book, I was and before, because we talked about your works, I was wondering to myself how I could represent those adversarial, how do you say it? Adversarial entities. So would you mind please just have a check and maybe explain those entities like this?
we share on the screen.
I share the picture on the screen. Like I mean the first one, it's gonna be more easy for you to see it. This is the Steiner sculpture.
Oh yeah, I don't see anything. I don't see anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna share it just right now.
I see you.
Yeah, yeah, sorry. Little technique. It's okay. Now I think you can see it.
Yes, and can I point to the picture, or
yes, you let me know. I will. I mean,
I can use this. Yes, I can use this arrow.
I will share every screen because it's gonna be more easy for you.
Yeah, I can use this here.
Yeah,
Good.
so we did this like this way, you see?
Yeah.
To have those two pictures because we thought that it was more easy for you to explain it, right?
Yeah.
So
we can do here. Here you have, of course, Christ in. This has a long story, actually.
Yeah, but okay.
Do you have any questions first, or?
We thought that it was a good idea to show people what you're talking about, because
so here is Christ in the middle.
Yeah.
And very important is to see his right hand go down and his left hand go up. Here you have the Luciferic being at the top, and also here there are two Luciferic beings, one that stands there sort of, and the other who dives down. And then you have the Ahrimanic being here and down here. Two Ahrimanic beings and two Luciferic beings. And here, exactly here, Ahriman and Lucifer shake hands. That is in just under the heart of the Christ.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And for this one in your book, you called him cosmic humor, right?
Yes.
Because we said celestial humor, but Norbert told me no, it's cosmic. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Celestial humor is good. Here you have Ahriman, and here you have Lucifer, and here you have Christ. Yes, they are the four entities in this statue.
Yeah.
Four individualities.
And what's the function in this sculpture about celestial in few words?
That is the most difficult to say. Shall we start with the easiest? And that is this with the Christ in the middle between Lucifer and Ahriman. And there is one missing in this statue. And that is the Azuric Asuras, which should be in here on the right side.
But he couldn't know about Azuric at this moment, right?
It wasn't right to make it, because then people would ask, what is it? And then he had to talk about the first elemental realm, and that was too early.
Yeah, that was too early. Yeah, because the sculpture, as it written on the screen, they made it, both of them, so Rudolf Steiner and Edith Marion, between 14 and 17.
Yes.
At the beginning of the 20th century.
Yes.
So that's why how we could read in your book that it's too early, as you just said. So, so I apologize to everybody and to you because I have drawn something. So let you show what I've done just to show those entities. Because I would like you, as you can see, to have a representation about those place of those entities that you could see when you see people, right?
Yeah.
So is it okay for you maybe to have some?
Yeah, no, this
introduction about-
looks actually quite interesting.
Okay, thank you.
That is not bad at all.
Thank you. So what can you say, please, to people, because people hasn't maybe read your book already. So you have talked about those entities since the beginning of our
Yes.
emission just right now.
And that is very, yeah, excuse me.
Sorry. So maybe you can just, as you just said, so those heart one, right? Those Azuriks came after. So Rudolf Steiner didn't know about this realm.
Yes.
And so maybe you
can. Yes, he knew about it. He knew about it, but he kept it secret.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh yes, he knew about it, but he wouldn't talk about it. He mentioned it sometimes, but he keeps it low. He lay low when it is about the Asuras. Okay, thank you. So can you just say a few words about those entities? Yeah, I mean, first the placement. The Azuric beings, they are in the middle, a little under and right of the heart. The Luciferic beings, they are always at the top, à la tête. And the Ahrimanic beings, they are always below, distal, caudal in animals, towards the tail, always in down. And the Chinese, they describe it as yang is always up and yin is always down. So we might say that Lucifer is yang and Ahriman is yin. And the symptoms, when they get too strong, they also is more like that. If the Luciferic get too strong, people get fever or hallucinations or heat and so on. And when the Ahrimanic gets too strong, you get arteriosclerosis, you get underfunctions of muscles and so on. And the Asuras, that is an attack on the eye. That means that you get wrong views, you get lies, you get you believe crazy things, for example. That is often an Azuric influence. Okay.
Is there other other sense organs with Azurics, or only the eyes?
On the eye, acquaintance of me, he is a doctor in Norway, and he has come under the influence of the Azuric being, a very strong Azuric being, and he think that some special groups are trying to assassinate him, and he had actually seen 2 assassins standing in his garden shooting at him, but the bullets didn't hit him, and he heard the bullets go into the wall, but when afterwards I looked at the wall, there were no holes. Quite interesting. Okay.
So that was an illusion made by those entities, maybe, right?
Asuras, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. They can really make illusions and hallucinations. Mm. And the Luciferic, they make illusions concerning often very personal things. That you think you are thick, but you are thin, or you think you are thin, but you are thick. For example, problems in eating, anorexia. And the Ahrimanic give wrong impressions that has to do with sort of angles or building houses or starting cars or mechanical that you don't really, or you get wrong ideas about the motor and so on, or a bow or a gun for that matter. And the Azuric beings, they give illusions or wrong impressions about sort of worldwide opinions. Like, let's say you really believe that the earth is flat. That is an Azuric influence.
Okay. Really interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you're not flat earthers.
Actually not.
I won't say nothing. I don't know. Which one?
Yeah, the cards, maybe.
Yeah, but let's show to people the cover of your book.
Yeah, and there you have the clouds.
Yes, okay.
That is a picture from the outer etheric realm.
Hmm. Yeah, and we have found, so you will say, I think that it's not a proper representation, but have a look, like we have found a representation of Vidar, but no big ears, like you can see.
No, this is not a... This is more like a Viking.
Yeah.
Or a French Viking.
Well, actually, I don't know if it's, you know, it's coming from an oracle cards, you know, like this.
Yes.
Yggdrasil, Big Frost. Well, but by the way, that was interesting for us just to have representation of those guys.
Yeah.
And this is Baldur.
Well,
this is not that at all. Let us know.
No, not at all.
Not
Okay.
at all. So what can you say about them? Because you told us that Vidar has big ears, but you told us, by the way, in the book that there is different situation because they are transformed themselves.
Yes.
And
You know, this to describe physical, spiritual beings.
yeah, it's difficult. It's always
It's not
moving.
difficult. It's actually always wrong. It's more or less wrong because they are mental pictures of what they present. So if they are angry, they you have seen the film Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And you have seen where Gandalf got angry. He totally changed appearance. He got dark and big.
Yes.
And then he was kind again, and then he got small. And I mean, spiritual beings change totally after what they bring. So you cannot stay, they have no strict physical appearance. They don't have that. You cannot say that. They change all the time. But of course, I usually have, I have a picture. There is English artist who have used now several months to make a picture of Vidar and Baldur. There.
Right.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
I made it.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, well, okay.
This is standing on the threshold of the outer etheric realm. And you see the black at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a representation of the Bifrost?
No, don't make that now. That is something else. That is the death.
Okay.
This is the outer etheric world. And there you have the threshold, the black, and there you have the rainbow, and then you have Vidar is the bigger and Baldur is the smaller.
Okay.
And there you have the outer etheric. You see the pastel colored clouds. The artist's name is Reynolds. You see the mountain in behind. You see the plain where the river water, and then the mountains. Very good picture.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this.
So you see, they don't actually look like the ones you showed. They don't have a sword and a dagger and all this.
Yeah, we see. Well,
Perfect.
do you have any other questions?
I have no other questions.
No other questions.
A lot of things
No,
to digest already.
So
Now
many.
you have made me going. Now I can't sleep.
Oh.
Okay.
No, if you want, the adversarial entities, right? You said they are foundation of the material illusion, right? Which are made to mislead us in some way. So
Yes.
you mean those entities are able to produce some
Illusions.
illusions?
Yeah. For
Some-
example, a combination of the Azuric and the Aramanic, they give a false clairvoyance.
Yes, that's right.
So you think you see things, you think you can understand things, but you don't.
Mhm.
But the cleverness of the adversarial is that always 90% is right.
Yeah.
You see, if you are a liar, you cannot only lie. You have to give 80 or 90% right,
Yeah.
and then you have 10% lie.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people will look through you. If you only lie, it's like politicians. They say 8 truth, and then I have 2 untruths. And then people believe them because they said this, that was true, this, that was true, this, that was true. Then that must be true too. You know, that is a stupid liar only lies. A good liar lies of important things and say the truth in the other.
Yeah.
And that is the adversarials. They are very clever.
So, as you just said, we could find out that many people right now are able to see more wiser. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it's not wiser, but it maybe in
Yes.
some ways it's wiser. So, why and how can you explain that? Because we have so different stories about the situation of the Earth right now. So,
Yeah. And
how could you explain that?
the typical with the false clairvoyance or the false opinions is that they differ from person to person.
Mm.
And that is what the adversarial want. They want to split us up. So that is quite clever.
Mm.
And they give groups this impression. They, you know, those who believe in that the earth is flat, they really believe it. Although all logic say that it must be round, otherwise the ones at the edge will be standing like this because the gravity goes to the center, and only those in the middle, and all the water will stream to the center, and so on and so on. I mean, it's unlogical, but they still believe it, and they are intelligent people, and they argue for it with great intelligence in a way.
Mm.
And that is why, because they really believe it.
Mm.
And then these Azuric beings really give, this friend of mine really believed that he was trying to be assassinated. He really believed that the bullets passed him. There is a little problem that there were no holes, of course, but that is just a little problem. You can look away from that. It is quite funny in a way.
Yeah.
It is. Those small things doesn't matter.
So, thank you so much for those information. First, we should have talk more about you and your biography because we did not. So, let us maybe talk more about your life, please, because Norbert would like to introduce your activities and what you are doing. I mean,
and your different books that you wrote.
Yeah, my main work is actually healing, of course, healing. And that is my main goal from going into the spiritual or developing medicines or whatever I have done. And that comes from many lives of healing, of trying to heal, and of course being also an agronomist and a veterinarian in this life. So my main concern the last years is to avoid translocation of diseases. And I didn't dare to talk about it in the beginning because I thought nobody believed that when you treat a person, the disease goes to another.
Yeah.
That is so unbelievable. But when I, after 20 years, dare to talk about it, and first I talked about it in Berlin, then in Wrocław in Poland, and then in Italy. Every time there stood up doctors or veterinarians from Taiwan or China or somewhere, India, or saying, yeah, of course, we know about this, but we don't tell you.
So
because you don't believe it.
Yeah.
And
that's a very big question, because it's really important.
And when I talk to different schools of alternative medicine, they all teach how to avoid or to protect yourself, that the disease jump from the patient to yourself. So they are aware of the mechanism, but they don't bring you to that thought that, okay, they protect themselves. What about the others? They treat a patient, the disease jump, but you protect yourself. What about the others who sit in the waiting room? What about the family? What about the animals on the street? It's so silly not to take that conclusion. So that is my main, now what I talk about often. And in next week, I'm going to have an interview like this for the whole community of Norwegian alternative medicine. So they really listen. And I thought in the beginning I would have been thrown out, but I'm not. They say, yes, we see the problem. It is a problem. We know, we understand there is a problem. We see there is a problem, but we don't know what to do with it. That's why they don't want to talk about it, because they don't know what to do. And they have their education. It is their job. They cannot just stop treating people in craniosacral therapy, homeopathy, acupuncture, and so on. So I didn't talk about it until I had a solution for it. But that takes several hours to describe technically all that.
Yeah, but you do, and that's a good news for people. I mean, to have somebody to speak with about those kind of subjects, because lots of healers all around the world really do not know anything about that.
Yes. I had one course about it in France half a year ago. And they were amazed how it could be done.
Great.
And the fact that you can heal also on small animals, horses, and human beings, and the link in between that you explain also about with translocation.
So we should maybe explain for people that translocation is what you just said. I mean, that you erase the disease from a patient, but you take care about the disease either. You don't let the disease going anywhere else or somebody else. So you deal with the disease itself.
Yeah. If you don't know this, you will only push the disease out of the patient in a shorter or longer time to use this push. Some do it fast, some do it through some weeks or months. They push it out, but they don't change it. And they push it out and then it goes to another.
I have a question.
All cultures know about this. All systems know about this. And in the East, they know about it, but they won't tell us.
I
It
have
was
a
the
question.
first time a doctor said that. Yes, of course, he said, you are right, but we keep it as a secret because you Westerners don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. We don't believe because what you push out is entities, is elemental beings. And we don't believe in that.
So I have a question about that because I've learned that when you have a disease is about a situation that you have grew up during your chronology life. I mean, because you have some point of difficulties or suffering in different situations, right? So we grew up, and then because we don't have time or free will to, how do you say that, to not erase but make out free our emotions. Because of that, we are not able to heal ourselves till we just get understood about what we have been through for real. Does it make clear for you? Because I'm not sure about my English.
You can say it easier. You say, behind all physical expressions is there elemental beings.
Yes. So
also behind the disease.
Yes. So
and
I mean,
these elemental beings can move in the body.
Yes.
Or they can move out to other people or animals.
Yes. So
That's simple.
I got it. I mean,
they are created by wrong living, wrong thinking, wrong speaking,
okay,
wrong eating, and so on.
So if we healed on our own about that, I mean, the disease is out. It's just mean that the entities is on someone else.
Yes.
So she just left us.
Yes.
We are happy. So, oh,
Yeah.
I healed. But no, there is a situation for someone else.
Yeah. And additionally, then if you don't change your life,
yeah, you get back.
You create new.
You create new, yeah.
So after, let's say, acupuncture or craniosacral therapy, you can feel better for half a year, and then you start to get sick again if you don't change the foundation, the cause.
Yeah, of course. Okay, thank you. This is a big answer for us.
Oh yeah, very important today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So you can talk about yeah.
So would you like to talk a little bit to us about your books or some specificities that you would like to emphasize? Actually,
something I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I think we have talked about my main interest. My main point is get into the spiritual world by fading, merging into, go through the elemental realms, reach the outer etheric, relate to Vidar and Balder, the new clairvoyants. Be careful with clairvoyance, trust the clairaudience, and also don't translocate diseases. No, I think we have been through most of my interests.
Okay.
Thank you, Erin.
I think.
By the way, it is difficult to tell you more and to tell us more. I mean, because it would take several emissions that we would not yet make the turn of the question. To find out more, we could and we can only invite everyone to read your book and and all of your different book, because we have some many, and like Rudolf Steiner is quite interesting to
in anthroposophy
to learn about like music and sounds. I'm discovering it for this month, really interesting. And so thank you for that, because it is about you and about Norbert discovering it. So
some great understanding.
Mm.
And yeah, and we would like also to know your actuality, and if you have, for example, for this current year, some stages that are scheduled or formation.
This current year, yeah.
Yeah, this year, you mean courses and lectures? Yes.
In Europe?
Yes, if you want to tell more.
I am not in France, nothing. There is in Stuttgart, I have a week with a lecture and course and patients. And in the whole August, I will be traveling America to talk about this, starting in Alaska, Canada, Chicago, Boston, New York. The whole month. I'm a little nervous about that.
That's a huge program.
Because I get, what if I get to, because after 3 times Corona and 70 years of age, I get tired more easily in the evening, especially in the evening. And if I don't get tired one evening, I get more tired next evening.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I said we don't wait too long. Oh, now it gets dark here.
Yeah.
There.
Woo!
How do you do this? No. No, I don't want
That's
to.
okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
The night is coming on.
So, and would you like to talk a little bit, just few words about
Your new
book?
No, that is follow up. You know, the Nordic, traveling the Nordic path of initiation, meeting Vidar. That is the book you had there.
Okay.
Okay.
And the next is the teachings of Vidar, the whole book, which will be published very soon.
Okay.
And then come the teachings of Vidar 2, number 2, which I'm writing now. So it's all about meeting Vidar and his
Looking
teaching.
forward.
Yeah. we were talking about the fact that the whole book that we have just read needs to have another book from each page, you know, because it's
Yes.
so huge.
Yeah,
So
so
big.
I'm going on with that now.
Thank you.
So I write every day a little, and yeah,
Lots of work for you.
when it's published, you will. I haven't published it in French, but
Maybe soon. Maybe soon.
I need somebody to translate, of course.
Mm.
Good.
Yes, you.
Nice
you,
to hear it.
You.
It's on.
Yeah.
It's on.
So you could actually put all 3 books together in one.
Maybe.
It's
and publish it as one big book. I did that in Finnish just a few weeks ago. I published book 1 and 2 together. Because when it is continuous, you can actually you can actually just add it, and because it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Of course, yeah, we saw it that you have added some informations at the end of your latest published book.
And that was actually the beginning of the second book.
Yeah, okay.
But I told the publisher that I want this with. So he said, I cannot do it now, but we can take it as an addendum, ad. And I said, okay. So it is, I write every day. I have done that for the last years. Now it is about 17 or 18 books, I think, totally.
Yes,
But some are, in the beginning, it was strictly alternative veterinary medicine and then human medicine. And then I wrote about translocation, acupuncture and translocation, and so on. And then it has become more and more spiritual, actually. I'm not really, I'm much more into the spirituality now than actually medicine, although I cannot really drop the medicine either. Because medicine is a very important part of spirituality. In old times, you know, the priests and doctors were the same.
They're totally complementary.
Oui.
Kidding.
The first time I was lecturing in Paris, I said, I will try to lecture in French. So I started to talk in French, and then after 1 minute, I stopped me and said, we translate.
Yeah, it's not so easy.
Because when I was 18, I could speak French relatively good. I was actually one whole evening, I was discussing philosophy with an African student in Sorbonne, outside Sorbonne. And it went very well. So I was thought, oh yeah, I was 18, you know. And when you haven't talked French between 18 and 60, you forget it totally. So but I have a little the accent. Bonjour. Bonjour, madame. Bonjour, monsieur. That was a little French, wasn't it?
You will get it back very quickly if you come here. Because...
Probablement. C'est vrai, oui.
So maybe we could
J'arrive à votre maison très bien.
Yeah. Maybe we could invite you for a next program to talk about the next book in French. So.
Yeah, no, I will not be able to do that.
Oh, in some way we could translate. So.
I think you have to translate, yeah.
Thank you so much for your presence, Mr. Are Thoresen.
Thank you.
For your
Thank
time.
you for your time.
Your sharings are a huge presence for those people on the path. And
you are welcome to come back on Spirale TV and tell us about another of your books or experience, and it would be...
You will see when it is published, and we can take another talk.
We have to read it before?
Yes, you have to read it before, and then we can talk.
Okay.
Sure.
Otherwise, you wouldn't know what to talk, what to ask.
Of course.
Okay. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. See you soon for a new adventure on our channel. And
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.